Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to episode 217 of the IT Career Energizer podcast. My guest on today's show works with organisations around the world to help them to improve their software processes. He provides training, coaching and mentoring in disciplined agile and lean strategies at both the project and organisational level. He is also the founder of the Agile Modelling and Agile Data methods and co-founder of Disciplined Agile. So welcome to the podcast, Scott Ambler.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So Scott, could you perhaps maybe expand on that introduction? It's quite brief. Could you give us a little bit of a flavour of your career history and how you came into IT?
Sure. So I've been doing this IT stuff, I guess, since the late 80s. I started at a large reinsurance company and then worked for a large Canadian bank for a few years. And learned a lot of good stuff there. And then I went back to school. I got my master's in information science and became a consultant. So for a while, I was consulting on my own. Then I started working with a small boutique, small talk and object-oriented consulting firm based out of Toronto. Then I went back out on my own for a while, got involved with a few startups, did the internet.com boom for a while there. And that was a lot of fun. And while I was doing all that, I became interested in process. I've always been asking the question, what works, why, where do these techniques work, when don't they work, how do they all fit together? So I very quickly got interested in modeling and in software process in general. And at the time, I got involved with CMMI and CMMI level stuff, and then finally into rational unified process. And those were all fairly heavy, depending on the way you did things. But at the time, I decided that I started realizing that particularly the CMM stuff wasn't working so well, and I started lightening things up, and that's how I got into the Agile space. And then through the 2000s, basically helped organizations figure out this Agile stuff and apply Agile in semi-strange situations sometimes, usually at scale in enterprise class environments. So that's what I've been doing for almost 30 years, I guess, if I was around the numbers.
Yeah. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about your company as well, Disciplined Agile?
So Disciplined Agile was actually just recently purchased by PMI, the Project Management Institute.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a whole new ballgame. So PMI purchased us for the Disciplined Agile IP and our expertise. So we'll be helping organizations to understand Agile, how to do Agile in enterprise class situations, and leveraging this IP and our knowledge to help trainers and other organizations to help share the bounty that is Disciplined Agile with other organizations.
Yeah, I mean, my only experience is that particularly large corporate companies definitely struggle to implement Agile. I don't know whether that's typical from your own experience.
They do, yeah. It's always a bit of a struggle, I think, for a few reasons. First, it's hard. Agile, new ways of working take time to learn, and I think large organizations, unfortunately, have not invested in their people over the years. Some have, and some haven't, but certainly they could do better. A lot of use of contractors and consultants as well, and you tend not to invest in the people that don't work for you, or at least don't work for you full time. So I think there's that. There's also this issue of I think organizations underestimate the amount of effort it takes to become healthy again and become more effective, and they're always looking for a quick and easy win, and there really isn't any. And this is a fundamental challenge: is you have to understand that in order to improve, it's a multi-year journey. And you improve in small steps. There's no big easy win. So if you want to just cookie cutter in some existing process or framework, yes, people will try to help you do that. But no, it doesn't really work that well. And if you look at industry stats, it's certainly the promise is not being fulfilled by these prescriptive methods and frameworks. So in Disciplined Agile, we actually teach people how to improve and how to own your own process and how to choose your wow, to choose your way of working, and to do so effectively. And we have to get beyond this this naive, let's experiment and fail fast approach that a lot of agile coaches like to do, and rather, why can't we leverage the learnings of other organizations? Why can't we? We don't have to reinvent the wheel, and because other organizations have figured these things out. So instead of failing fast, we prefer to say we'd rather help you succeed early. And by leveraging the DA toolkit, organizations can make better decisions, but better process decisions, and identify techniques and strategies that are more likely to work for them. So that way, when they do experiment with the technique, they have a greater chance of it actually succeeding. So as a result, they speed up their improvement process. But having said all this, you still need some basic skills, some basic knowledge, and some basic mindset. It takes time, and effort to learn. So a lot of organizations don't want to take this time and effort, and they're always looking for these easy wins. And as a result, it was very common to see large organizations be on their fourth or fifth agile transformation because the previous ones haven't stuck,
Yes.
and they're still making the same basic mistake of trying to get it done quickly, and try to go for these easy strategies, and there simply aren't any.
Yeah. So, Scott, can you share with us a career tip one that the audience may not know and perhaps should?
Always be trying to learn, always be reading, and read widely. I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and somebody asked me, how do you get better at business, and how do you have gain this wider understanding of the environments that you're in? And it's like, well, I read, and I read widely. It's not just about IT stuff that I read. I'll read business magazines and business websites, and non-business stuff as well. So I'm constantly consuming information, consuming ideas, and I think this is absolutely critical. So, the absolute best advice I ever got years ago. I worked for a large Canadian bank I mentioned earlier, and the vice president that I worked for had this habit of once a quarter he would try to spend a half an hour with all the people under him, which was great. So you could have a conversation and pick his brains. And the best advice I ever got was from him, and it was exactly that: read widely, and read often, read widely.
Okay. And Scott, can you tell us about your worst IT career moments and what you learned from that experience?
Yeah, so only picking one is hard, but I think the probably the worst project I was ever on, which is strange because it was a great team, but the project itself was a disaster, and we were trying to build a system, and we're trying to help the customer, and we had two fundamental challenges. It was actually the only team I've ever been on where we failed for technical reasons, and we were being forced to use technology. So basically, a salesperson was selling this company technologies, and then we were having to try to make them work together. And like we had beta everything, and it was absolutely horrendous. And we were so our biggest problem, one that really got me, was we were using database technology that couldn't store negative numbers. So that's a bit of a bug.
Yeah.
And and to be fair, the vendor flew some top notch people, it flew them in, and they're trying to work it. But when you run into a fundamental flaw like that, it's time to give up on that technology, and wait for them to become real, basically. So. And then the database didn't work, the app server didn't work, they didn't talk to each other. We were being forced to use all this reasonably bad technology, and then when we tried to make it clear that there was no hope of us ever getting this done, the salesperson, and so we tested, and we had pretty solid reasons why this wasn't going to work. The salesperson response was, "Well, we'll just fake the test data, and we will detect the test results, and we'll make it look as if it's working, even though it's not." And that was it for me. And I walked off, but it was absolutely, truly unfortunate what had happened there. And they went for many more months after I left, and then eventually they all crashed and burned, and it was a complete disaster.
Yeah. Did you learn anything in terms of taking away some knowledge that you can apply later on to other experience or other projects?
That's a great question. So the answer is yes. So it taught me the importance of testing early and proving the architecture with working code. So one of the fundamentals of the rational unified process, which everybody likes to beat up on, but was that you prove the architecture early in the life cycle with working code, not just bubbles connected by lines, and that greatly reduces risk. And this is something we baked into Disciplined Agile delivery as well, but and kept it lightweight, of course. But it was absolutely critical. And if we should have, in hindsight, on that project, we should have been testing these technologies on their own to begin with, and doing spikes basically, and showing right away this is these things had serious problems. As well, we should have also been doing what you'd call I guess a steel wire, or shoot a bullet through, and do a vertical slice of the overall system right away to show that these things didn't integrate either. But live and learn.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. So, moving away from your worst moment, can you perhaps tell us about your career highlight or greatest success?
I've been involved with several systems where we've released things into the marketplace that did quite well. It's really satisfying to see your software up and running. You're going down the street and suddenly you can say, "Hey, I worked on that." So I think there's that. But I think I would tie it back, though, not to the systems, though, but more to the teams, the people that I worked with. I've made friends over the years with people all over the world. And I think the best teams are the ones that, in retrospect, they're the ones that you make good friends with, and the team that plays together or stays together, type of thing. But I think it's also interesting that if you're still playing together, long after the team has moved on to other things, then I think that's a pretty clear sign that it's gone very well. And I think certainly I've been on several teams where that's been the case. So I think it really is a people, the people that you work with, and the friendships that you make are the things I look for. That's what you remember, right? It gets interesting. Like, these questions are interesting for me because, over 30 years, what do I actually remember? And the question is that I mostly remember the people, not the code, not the architectural decisions, things like that.
Sure. And are there people you've worked with repeatedly as a result of building up good working relations?
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because once you start building these relationships up with people, yes, you keep coming back. You work with the people that you work with the people that you respect, and why wouldn't you want to work with them again? You had a good experience before. Yeah.
So, Scott, what excites you about the future of the IT industry and careers in IT?
Well, it's always changing, and I think there's that. But the exciting thing is you get to work on new and interesting things constantly, and solve interesting problems. And I love working in new domains. Whenever I get to engage with an organization, on the outside it always seems easy. Like, banking seems easy. Grocery chains seem easy, and on the outside they are, right. Like, in the grocery business, really, how hard is it to get a banana onto a shelf and then sell you a banana?
Yeah.
um, how hard could that possibly be? Quite difficult, actually, to do that at scale. So it's interesting, whenever I engage with these organizations, that the things that I learn and the things that I get to do, and these problems I get to solve, because getting bananas on the shelf is reasonably straightforward, but getting pharmaceuticals onto shelves safely is quite challenging sometimes. So it's one of the reasons why we see certain countries have problems with certain diseases that have been solved elsewhere, and it's not because they can't address that disease in that country. It's they don't have the refrigeration, they don't have the transportation to get the medicine to the people in time. Very interesting problems. But anyway, so that's just a interesting segue, I guess. But yeah, there's always some weird things in every domain. So it's very exciting that way.
We're going to go into the reveal round now. We're going to find out a little bit more about you and the way you think. Are you ready for this?
Sure, maybe not, but
We'll see. So, what first attracted you to a career in IT?
I sort of stumbled into it, actually. In high school, I was always good at programming, and I really enjoyed programming. But when I went to university, I had no clue what I wanted to do. And luckily, I took a computer science course because I liked programming. And then I discovered when I was in school that you can actually make a career out of this IT thing. So yeah, it was sort of just happen chance.
The next question you partly answered earlier, I think, but what is the best career advice you've ever received?
It was definitely to read often, read widely and read often. Yeah, without a doubt.
And, well, conversely, possibly more difficult to answer, what is the worst career advice you've ever received?
I think to focus on one technology. I think I've had people over the years tell me, technology X is really awesome, and you should focus on this. And sure, technology X is really awesome for about a year and a half, and
Yes.
then it dies out or gets replaced or whatever. So yeah, I think the stick with it. Focus on a single technology or a single language is probably phenomenally bad advice. Yeah, good advice to get started, I guess, but certainly not good advice to keep going.
If you were to begin your IT career again in today's world, what would you do?
What would I do? I'd probably take the same sort of path. I guess I'd start out as a programmer, but I would really try to get my technical game up, get good at modeling, get good at architecture. So I'd want to have I would want to find it. Yeah, if I had to start again, I think I would find a job where I was part of a team where we had to maintain and evolve an existing system, like something that was still like a mission critical thing, but had been around for a while and had been worked on by many people, and that would give me the experience I would need to understand, the true challenges around legacy systems and around maintaining and operating your own systems and things like that. I've always distinguished between developers who only do net new development. Those are the novice people. Though they often are phenomenally arrogant, and I think it's because they know so little that they're arrogant. Dunning Kruger effect on that one. But the people that the only programmers I respect are the ones who had to maintain somebody else's code and who have had to operate systems in production, and have been actively involved in supporting and operating their own systems. The programmers who haven't done that really don't know the implications of what they're doing yet.
And what career objectives are you currently focusing on?
Actually, I'm now in a position where I get paid to learn, and frankly, I've been in that position for a long time. But it's always good to continue on. But yeah, my career aspirations are to learn more and more about the way things work and answer basic questions like what works and what doesn't work and why, and to what extent would you do something and to what extent wouldn't you do something. So I find that fascinating.
And what's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
I would have to say writing. My ability to write, which I really had to work on. I was a very poor writer up until probably I was doing my master's, and I was lucky enough to have a prof that sort of forced the issue and helped me up my game. But then I've been working on it ever since. But being able to communicate, and particularly written, even today, written word is still absolutely critical. And if you can't do that, I think your career moves are limited if you don't communicate well.
Yeah, so what form does your writing take? What do you do?
Yeah, good question. I typically just write. I blog and I write books. I'm trying to blog more than I write books, but books tend to eventually come at some point. But yeah, it's all written stuff. I used to write magazine columns, but the magazines have all sort of died off, and
Yes.
I blog in spurts, I guess.
And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
I look for to focus on things that I don't have a lot of experience in. So I'm always asking myself the question, what do I really know about that topic? And if it's a topic I might know a little bit about, but I know enough about it to know that I don't know much about it, then I tend to try to jump in on that because that's going to be a good opportunity to learn something new.
Yes. And possibly the most important question, what do you do away from technology in your spare time?
Oh, I'm big into cycling. I love cycling. Starting to get into kayaking as well. But for a weird thing, I collect Atari 8-bit computer
Right.
equipment, computers and equipment and software, and I'm slowly putting together a reasonably large collection the old computers from the late 70s and early 80s.
Wow.
I actually recently obtained. I'm very happy with this. I recently obtained a 300 baud modem. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that amazing amount of bandwidth yet, but I intend to get that up and running in the next few weeks.
Sure. I think I've got an Atari 800 somewhere in my loft. So,
good for you.
And a few 8-bit games to go with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, excellent.
Scott, can you share a parting piece of career advice with the IT Career Energizer audience?
Always expand your skills and always try to learn new techniques from different people, and always question what you do. So I was the originator of the generalizing specialist concept many almost 20 years ago now, I guess. So I always recommend people become a generalizing specialist. Have one or more specialties, things you're very good at. That way you're useful, but also have a general knowledge of at least the software process that you're involved with, and hopefully the business domain that you're currently working in, and always be willing to pick up new skills and work with others. I think that's so become a generalizing specialist. Get out, you end up being able to communicate better and collaborate better, and it's much more enjoyable having many opportunities to learn more things.
Yes.
So that's what I would say.
And finally, what's the best way we can find out more about you and connect with you?
I'm easy to find on Google, but right now probably the best site to find my more recent writings is disciplinedagiledelivery.com. That site, or just Disciplined Agile with a hyphen in there, .com, are probably the two best opportunities. But like I said, just do a quick Google of me and you'll find more about me than you probably want to know.
Great. Okay. Scott, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
Oh, thanks, Phil. It's been great. I hope people find this interesting.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening in to today's episode and to my guest career tips, advice, and experiences. You'll find a show notes page for today's episode on the IT Career Energizer website, which will be itcareerenergizer.com/e and then the number of today's episode. And a quick reminder that the show has now 3 episodes every week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So make sure that you are subscribed to the show to get new episodes automatically downloaded. Also, don't forget to join the IT Career Energizer community Facebook group. You'll get to engage with other like-minded people, get to find out more about upcoming guests and other episodes, and can get involved in the future direction of the podcast. It really is a great pleasure to be able to talk to so many inspirational people from across the industry and to be able to share their stories and advice with you.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast.
If you're not growing your
to find
career,
out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.